Most people drink wine, few taste it. Today, we're gonna learn how to actually taste wine and the method that's gonna change the way you approach it and experience it going forward. So now we're gonna go through the method. And the method really matters because without a method, you're just guessing. But with a method, you're actually learning. And this could be the same for a $12 bottle of grocery store wine to a $400 Bordeaux. It is all about consistency. And once you learn to do this, you'll be doing the exact same thing that sommeliers do, and you'll have the same sort of vocabulary and approach and understanding that they do. And we're gonna do that in a really simple and easy way. So the method has 4 steps. The first is appearance. What do we see in the glass? Second is the nose. What are we smelling? What are we experiencing? What are we getting out of it? And then third is the palate. What's going on in our mouth? What are we actually tasting? What is the structure? What's happening with this wine? And the fourth is conclusion. This could be looking at how the wine's put together, is it in balance, etc. And then most importantly, do we like it? First step, appearance. It's as simple as tilting your glass at a 45-degree angle, preferably over something white because it helps. And what do we see? We're looking for color depth, hue, and clarity, really. So while a young wine may be purple and vibrant, whereas an aged red wine may be orange and moving to garnet, and there'll be a transition at the rim. It's really a clue as to what the grape is, what its age is, and it's just a good starting point to start off when you're drinking a wine. That was the first step. The second step is nose. And the nose actually tells you quite a bit more than the palate most of the time. And what we do is we take a short sniff and then a long one. And the reason we do that is our nose gets fatigued real fast. So what do we smell? What we're really looking for are flavor and aroma families. Is it fruity, floral, earthy? Is there oak? Is there spice? These are all clues, and they tell us something. Key is, name 3, not 12. Just identify 3 things in the glass, and then move on to the next step. The next step is the palate. And the palate is really there to do 2 things: confirm what we observed with the nose, and then also we're gonna get an idea of the structure of the wine. So the first thing we're gonna do is just put some wine in our mouth, and we're gonna let it sit and move it around in our mouth. The way I was taught is to chew on the wine. So I look pretty active when I take a sip and I'm chewing on the wine, and I may open my mouth a little and then take in a little bit of air. It actually aerosols the aromas or the flavor compounds in the wine. I can basically smell and taste them better again. What we're also gonna be tasting for is structure, and we're gonna break that down in detail here later in the video. For now, just notice what it feels like in the mouth. Now, we're gonna move on to 4, which is the final step in the method, and that's conclusion. In the conclusion, we're answering 3 questions. 1, what is it? 2, how good is it? And 3, is it ready to drink? Don't worry about being right. You're gonna guess wrong, and that's fine. It's all about practicing the method and understanding how to do it. You'll get better and better as you go along. Now the tricky part, we're gonna move into structure. And structure is what makes up the wine, and there are 6 structural elements that we're gonna be observing and notating as we taste every wine going forward. So 1, sweetness; 2, acidity; 3, tannin; 4, alcohol; 5, body; and 6, the finish. Once you learn these 6 different structural elements, you can describe any wine without ever having to use the word jammy or elegant again. You have everything you need, likely, in your kitchen to go ahead and demo these. And we're gonna go through each one of them right now, starting with sweetness. Sweetness lives at the tip of your tongue, because that's the first place it registers. Wines range anywhere from bone dry to fully sweet. However, most wines you have with dinner or out and about at a tasting are going to be dry or off dry. Sometimes there'll be a little residual sugar left in that can kind of help round out any of the rough edges on a wine. A common mistake is sometimes confusing fruity or jammy with sweet. So if you're drinking, let's say for instance, a California Zinfandel that could just be extremely fruity and can appear sweet, is actually could be very, very dry. So let your tip of your tongue guide you. Next, we'll go into acidity. Acidity is observed in your mouth on the sides of your tongue, and then it's mouth-watering. So you can try this at home with, if you just cut a lemon, squeeze a little bit of lemon in your mouth, and then observe what's happening. Then try it with wine. I was taught to do what's essentially a drool test. It looks ridiculous, and I still do it. I will put some wine in my mouth, I will swirl around and chew on it like I mentioned, and then you open your mouth a little bit and then tip your head down. It is amazing how fast your mouth wants to drool. And the faster that happens, the higher the acidity. And sometimes it doesn't want to do it at all. Typically, wines with high acid feel very refreshing, and they cut through fat if you're pairing them with food. And I would say cool climates generally produce higher acidity wines, whereas very warm or hot climates can produce lower acid wines. If a wine has not enough acid in it or is very low acid, it can come across sometimes as like flat or flabby. Next, we're gonna do tannin. Tannin is not bitterness, it's a texture. And the closest reference we have in the non-wine world would be to take a cup of cold, strong black tea and take a sip. And what you'll notice is, your cheeks tighten and your gums dry out. So that drying, grippy texture is tannin. And in wine, it comes from the grape skins, seeds, stems, and oak barrels. And young red wines can have really aggressive tannin. And as the wine ages, the tannins soften. And in white wines, they really don't have a meaningfully amount of tannin. And that's really one of the biggest differences between red and white wines. And next is alcohol. And alcohol really shows up in two places in a wine. First is in what we call the legs or tears. So if you swirl a wine, and you'll notice those little tears or the legs as they drip down the side, the slower and the thicker those tears are, it's usually the higher the alcohol. And the second place is gonna be in the back of the throat. It's a noticeably warm feeling. Now, most dry wines are between 11 and 15%. And I would say anything 14% and above, that's when you can actually start to feel it noticeably on the back of your throat as you're swallowing. The fifth structure element is body. And the cleanest way to think about this is we're talking about like the viscosity of the liquid. And I think there's like a really nice parallel that people use all the time that's really great for this. It's kind of the difference between like a skim or a non-fat milk, and then like a 2% or whole milk, and then heavy cream. You can really feel the difference between that. And so wines can have different bodies as well. And so you can have some wines that are like very, very light, and then some wines that are very heavy feeling. And this can happen to do with alcohol, extract, residual sugar, and then sometimes to a lesser extent, tannin. But it is a clue. Now we'll go on to the sixth and final element of structure. And last but not least is finish. And finish just refers to how long do the pleasurable flavors of the wine linger in your mouth after you swallow. So a short finish would be anywhere from just a couple of seconds, a medium finish maybe 10 to 20 seconds, and then a long finish is gonna be beyond 30 seconds and longer, maybe a minute or two. And to a lot of people in the wine world, this is really one of the clearest indicators of quality. So while as an inexpensive bottle of wine may just kind of the flavors just disappear on you, whereas you spend a little bit more money, and then all of a sudden you may have a wine that's going on and on for a minute or longer. And this is kind of really what you're paying for. Those are the six. Now let's talk about what happens when the wine is white. So it's the same approach, same method. The only thing that changes a little bit is that on red wines, we're looking a little bit more at color depth and tannin. In white wines, we're looking a little more at the aromatics and acidity. White wines can be a little more transparent to the grape just because there's not tannin for it to hide behind, and usually there's not a very meaningful amount of tannin in the white wines. So for instance, if we're tasting a Sauvignon Blanc, it could explode out of the glass at you with grass and grapefruit and passion fruit. Whereas where we might be drinking a Pinot Noir and it might be a more subdued floral and earthiness. But the structure and the method don't change. White wines can be super dry and they can go all the way up to dessert and super sweet. Sweetness and finish still apply to white wines. A dry Sauvignon Blanc might have a short to medium finish, whereas a Sauterne dessert wine can be fully sweet and can have a very, very long finish. But if you can taste both of them with the same method, you understand the method. Now on to faults. And faults can be pretty tricky. They are not the same thing as a wine that you don't enjoy. They are a chemical flaw in the winemaking that actually renders the wine not as it's supposed to taste. So we're gonna look at the top 3 wine faults that you need to know and that you'll most likely experience at some point. The first one is what we call cork taint, or corked, or TCA. Cork taint is caused by a chemical compound on the cork itself from the cork tree, made it all the way through production onto the cork and then tainted the wine. Now, cork taint can be a little tainted to a lot tainted, and everyone has a different sensitivity to it. But in general, what you should know about it is that it can smell like wet cardboard or a musty old book or a damp basement. And the other thing that cork taint does is not just introduce those flavors of the damp book, it also strips the fruit off of it. So if you experience a wine that has those wet basements and you're not getting the fruit that you're expecting on it, it's most likely tainted. If that happens, return it. Especially if you're at a restaurant, they'll just open another bottle for you right away, or take it back to the shop and they'll replace that bottle. Next up, we will go through oxidation. Oxidation happens when a wine is exposed to too much oxygen. So this could happen from a bad closure, an old bottle, or it could happen because the wine has been open too long. One of the tells for this would be if the wine tastes or smells like sherry or like a bruised apple. A lot of times the wine will actually change color. So if it's going brown, or a red wine will turn to orange, or a white wine will go from a lemon color into like a gold or amber. Now, there are some wines that are intentionally oxidative, such as like Madura or sherry, and in those, that's an intentional style. But in like a young Pinot Noir, it's a fault. And the third fault that we're gonna go through is Brettanomyces. It's also known as Brett. Now, in some regional areas, a little bit of Brett is considered part of the character of the wine. And to some people, Brett is more of a hygiene issue in the winemaking process. But if it gets too high, you're gonna start running into what we call like a barnyard, like a horse blanket. It can come across as like sweaty leather. And the challenge is, if it gets too high, it again just overpowers the fruit and takes it away. I would say that Brett used to be regional characteristic from the Rhone and Burgundy in France, typically. Those are the 3 faults, and now let's put it all together. All right, one wine, 60 seconds, the whole thing. So first, we're gonna look at appearance. And this is a light color hue. It is ruby in color. It's pretty, it's very bright. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and swirl. So, getting a lot of like really bright cherries. Just a little bit of like earth and a little bit of maybe clove. Okay, this is dry. There's no sweetness. The acidity would be medium plus to almost high. Tannin, all right, there's some tannin here. Probably medium plus. It's actually a considerable amount of tannin. Alcohol, I think this is probably medium. If I were to guess, I would say somewhere in that 13.5 to 14% range. The body, medium. It's not super like water, but it's not thick and really viscous either. And this finish it's nice. This is probably at least a medium finish, maybe medium plus. I think that this wine is absolutely can be drank now. It could probably go longer. And again, this just happens from experience. You don't need to be right. You just need to be consistent. Let's take a look at what the wine is. All right, it is a Willamette Valley. Christum is the producer out of Aola Amity Hills, which is the little region in Willamette Valley there. And it's 13.5%. That makes sense. That is the method. Now a few words on the Mistral cards. So the Mistral cards are not flashcards. They're a reference scaffold. And I want you to use them to pull them out whenever you're going to pour a wine and use them as a prompt. That's what they're there for. Next up, we're gonna do 10 red wines, 10 red grapes that really matter. I'll see you there.